You're probably scrolling through a dozen gaming laptops right now, wondering which one will actually let you hit 1080p 144Hz without draining your wallet or ending up as a paperweight after a few months. It's a real headache when the specs look amazing on paper, but you're not sure how they translate to the games you play, the homework you have to finish, and the occasional Netflix binge. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. And I'm here to walk through the practical side of the HP Victus 15.6 inch so you can decide if it's the right fit for your setup or if you'd be better off looking elsewhere. First off, the Victus is positioned as a mid-range gaming machine that leans on a fairly new AMD Phoenix line of processors and an RTX 4060 graphics card. In real life, that combo means you'll see solid frame rates in titles like Fortnite or Apex Legends at medium settings, and you can push Shadow of the Tomb Raider into the high 90 FPS range if you're willing to dial back a few visual extras. The 144Hz IPS panel is actually usable here thanks to the 4060's ability to push well over 100 frames per second in many esports titles. You'll notice the smoothness on the screen, not just on the spec sheet. Now, who should care about that? If you're a college student who wants to game after classes, or a remote worker who needs a decent workstation that can double as a weekend battle royale rig, the Victus hits a sweet spot. The 16 gigabytes of DDR5 5600 RAM means you can keep a handful of browser tabs, a couple of design programs, and a game running without the dreaded stutter that some older 8 GB laptops suffer from. The 1TB PCIe 4 SSD also translates into quick load times. Most modern games will load into the world in under 10 seconds, and large files like video projects zip open almost instantly. On the flip side, if you're a competitive player who lives for ultra-high settings, you might feel the 6 GB VRAM ceiling of the RTX 4060 start to bite in texture-heavy games like Cyberpunk 2077 when you crank everything to ultra. You'll still be playable, but you'll have to accept a few compromises, like turning off ray tracing or dropping the resolution scaling. The same goes for anyone who expects a laptop to stay under 5 hours of battery life while gaming. The Victus will give you roughly 2 to 3 hours on a demanding title before you're hunting for a charger. Let's talk about the day-to-day experience beyond the gaming bench. The 15.6-inch screen, while crisp at 1080p, is not a 4K panel. So if you're a content creator who relies on pixel-perfect detail for video editing, you might find the workspace a little cramped. However, the inclusion of a multi-format SD card reader is a nice, often overlooked convenience for photographers or vloggers who need to dump footage quickly without an external dongle. The keyboard has a decent travel distance, and the numeric keypad on the right is functional for spreadsheet work, a small plus if you're juggling school assignments and gaming sessions. Thermals are another real-world factor that gets glossed over in marketing blurbs. The Victus uses a dual-fan setup with a fairly aggressive vent layout, and under sustained load the CPU and GPU will climb into the upper 80s Celsius. In practice, that means you'll hear the fan spin up noticeably after about 20 minutes of continuous play, and you might notice a tiny dip in frame rates as the chip throttles just enough to keep temperatures in check. It's not a catastrophic issue, but it's something to keep in mind if you plan on marathon gaming nights. A cooling pad can help keep the fans from becoming a constant background hum. One of the hidden trade-offs is the chassis weight. At roughly 5.4 pounds, the Victus is heavier than many ultra-portable laptops, which makes sense given the larger cooling solution and the 1TB SSD. If you're commuting daily or plan to travel with it often, you'll feel that heft in your backpack. That said, the build feels solid, and the silver Mica finish does a decent job of hiding everyday scuffs. It's not a premium aluminum unibody, but it holds up well enough that you won't be constantly worrying about dents. Now, let's address the price-to performance equation. In the current market, a laptop with a Ryzen 7 8845HS, RTX 4060, 16 GB DDR5, and a full terabyte of fast storage typically lands in the $1, $300, $500 range. The Victus often appears slightly below that ceiling, making it an attractive option if you're trying to stretch a budget without sacrificing the core gaming experience. The value really comes from that combination of a modern CPU and a capable GPU that still holds relevance 2 years from now, plus the DDR5 memory that future-proofs you a little further than the older DDR4 alternatives. However, You should skip this model if you're looking for a thin and light gaming laptop that you can slip into a slim sleeve, or if you need a machine that stays under 4 hours of battery life while running demanding software. There,